Hey Scarefest, this is Joe Lewis of Bonehead Weekly with another review. I know I say this a lot and I'm starting to sound like a broken record, but man, I really wanted to really love this movie. It's directed by Neil Marshall. Neil Marshall gave us two of my favorite movies in the odds. One of the best werewolf films of all time, Dog Soldiers. If you've never seen it, check out Soldiers. And the movie that gave me chills and made me actually kind of yell out in the theater while I was watching it, The Descent. The Descent is to me is a masterpiece, a horror film. But then he was going to do a lower budget movie called The Reckoning that takes place late 16th century, and that's what I'm reviewing today. And it's about that time when not only the Black Death or the Black Plague is going on, but you also have these people, witch finders or witch hunters, and people are being accused of witchcraft and they're being murdered. These women are being murdered, their children murdered, their families destroyed because they're suspected of being witches. And you've heard all these stories, you're familiar with a little bit of the history, and that's what this movie's about, is that there's this young lady who is suspected of being a witch, and the Witchfinder General, which by the way is a great Vincent Price movie, you should totally check it out, much better than this film, shows up, and he's played by Sean Pertwee, who's a great character actor and has a lot of Neil Marshall stuff, and she has to suffer. Her husband has died. He got the Black Plague, committed suicide, so they wouldn't get the rest of his family sick. And now she's being accused of a witch. Her baby's been taken away from her. I like the third act slightly. There's some torture in it, and I swear there's one scene that is quite vivid of how you would torture a woman. Think about that to yourself. And then there's a scene or two later, and she walks into the room after she's being tortured. And I thought, if anybody had touched my nethers like that, I wouldn't be able to walk for a week. I know this is a movie, but let's get a little bit of realism. And I think that's the problem. I mean, is it low budget? Yes, but some of the acting in this is Jiminy Christmas terrible. I don't know the lead actress, Charlotte Kirk. She's in several different films. I looked her up. None that I'm really all that familiar with. A couple I've seen, but this isn't the role for her. She's not awful, but she's just entirely miscast. And I see that a lot, especially in these low budget films. And I know it's hard to get who you want or get someone that's going to just kill it, but she's really miscast. And most of this cast is just not good. It's kind of just a mess. I mean, poor story. I mean, one of the reviews on IMDb is garbage, poor acting, poor story, actors look bored, worst Neil Marshall film ever, bring back the director of The Descent. I don't know that's the worst Neil Marshall film ever. Hellboy was pretty bad, but at least Hellboy had something going on. It's a pretty bad movie. I thought this was going to be his return to his roots of low budget kind of horror. There's some scene, is she a witch? Isn't she a witch? None of that plays out overly interesting. None of the decisions made are overly fun or like, oh my god, what a twist, or this is a lot of fun, a lot of action. No, it's just really bad acting coming from a director who I expect more from. I really can't recommend The Reckoning. If you like that part of history, by the way, the movie says it was about 500,000 witches, and history says it's probably about 40 to 45,000 actually killed. Still a big ass number. If you really like that part of history, want to learn more about it, maybe you'll enjoy this movie. But it took me 2 nights to get through it. Let's be honest, it took me 2 nights. It wasn't like right now. I'm going to review Creepshow season 2. That I'm barreling through, even though it's completely low budget. It at least has the common decency to move right along. It doesn't move at a snail's pace. So I can't recommend The Reckoning, but if you do want to watch it, you're a Neil Marshall completist like I was. If you'd have told me this movie sucked, I was still going to watch it. In fact, I had heard it sucked. Check it out. It's on Shudder. It's a Shudder exclusive after it played in theaters, The Reckoning. But unless you're into any of that, steer clear. This has been Joe Lewis of Bonehead Weekly.